Hey guys, Julie here. I'm so excited to be sharing this new design with you. Now, just real quick, I do have my phone number up here. So if you want to order one of these kits, make sure you text me and I will send you a coupon code for 10% off. So I do have these available for purchase. If you're in the Missoula, Montana area, I can drop one off. Or if you are not in the Missoula, Montana area, I can have this mailed to your door. Shipping is included. So once again, I will be sharing that. If you go to my website and you go in the store, the link is in there. But once again, text me and I will send you a coupon code for 10% off. So I am so excited. In case I haven't said it about 1,000 times. So excited about this new little wood cutout. Now, you'll see that the wording is actually a separate entity. So these are actually 3D. So they will give your painting a little extra dimension, or if you don't like the words, you don't have to add them on. But I'm going to go ahead and take these and put these to the side. I'm up here. And then also the little snow caps are also 3-dimensional. So you'll paint them separately and then glue them on once everything is dried, or leave it without it. It's totally up to you. So once again, I'm going to be painting this. I love this wood grain. So you can still see this wood grain on here. Some of my other wood cutouts are on MDF, which is really great, but this is a little lighter in weight. And also, like I said, you can see that beautiful, beautiful wood grain. So I'm going to come in here and start painting this. And like I said, I'm just going to pick what colors I like. You can paint this with any colors that you like. And it's this really pretty, like I said, because it's wood, you can use a stain. But what I'm going to be using is acrylic paint, just diluted down a little bit. So that way you can still see that wood grain through. So I'm going to come in here. And once again, I'm using acrylic paint, watered down so you can still see that wood grain through the paint. Now, the fun thing about these is they also come etched, pre-etched, so you will not lose the lines. So if you're painting and you're like, oh no, where did my line go? You can easily remember where those lines were. So you won't lose the lines in the grain or in the painting. I'm so excited about these. Once again, I'm using real thinned out acrylic paint, but you don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you like to see the grain of the wood, just thin out your paint a little bit so it goes on a little bit more like a wood stain than it would actual paint. But if you like, here's a fancy word, if you like a little more color saturation, just don't dilute your paint. Or if you put it on and it's still a little too streaky, a little too see-through, just add a second coat. And I'm just coming in here and painting. I'm going to paint, I kind of have an idea. If you guys have any ideas for me, please shoot them at me, because you have way better ideas than I do. I love it when you guys inspire me or inspire each other. I recently posted some angels that I have a tutorial. Actually, if you want a tutorial, you can text me too and I'll send it to you. But it's a free angel tutorial. And I've had literally people all over the world paint it. I had one lady in Australia. I've had ladies all throughout the United States. Well, ladies and men. I shouldn't just say ladies, but I've had some amazing people take my tutorial and then paint this angel, and then they'll send me pictures of it. And I'm just always so inspired and in awe at what you guys create. And so then, like a proud mom, I'm like, oh, do you mind? You know, I always ask permission first, because not everybody is comfortable being Facebook famous. But if you guys say yes, I love showing off and sharing what you guys create. So once again, I'm using diluted acrylic paint. So I'm just taking my paint that I have that I do my paint parties with and just mixing a little bit of water with it. And what's going to happen is the wood's going to absorb some of that. So I don't want there to be like watermarks per se. If there are, this is actually kind of a really fun way to paint, because you can also take a paper towel or a hand towel or a regular towel, anything that's absorbent, and go back. As long as it's still wet and the wood hasn't absorbed that color completely, you can always go back and use like a paper towel and just kind of come in here and lift a little bit of that color, soften it. But also, like I said, I don't really like the brush stroke in this style. I just like it to almost look like a wood stain. So I'm just going to come in and suck up any little extra puddles of water. Once again, this is not how you have to do it, but I always like to show you how I paint them because it never ceases to fail. The one time I don't show what I'm doing, people are like, hey, what did you do? So once again, see how you can still see that wood grain through the paint. Once again, this is the look I love. Doesn't mean you have to paint yours like this. But I think it's really cool for it to look almost more like wood, like stained wood, which kind of in essence is what we're doing. We really are actually staining this, just not with wood stain. We are using paint. All right, so in my brain, what I'm gonna attempt to do is I want to do the mountains kind of like a gray. I'm going to start with like a gray and kind of go down into a brown. I'm going to do the ground brown. Then I'm going to do the road grays and blacks. And then I think I'm going to do the snow caps white and then the lettering white. What do you guys think? Give me some feedback. Like I said, you inspire me. So let me know what colors you think I should paint this. And also, if you want to order one of these or actually anything in my store on my Facebook page, if you text me, I will send you a code for 10% off. You can use it on anything in there that you want. All right. I'm going to kind of go from top to bottom. I'm going to let this dry. And if I ever want this to be darker, I can always go back and add a second layer on top of it. So I'm going to come in here and start painting my mountains gray. And once again, same thing, using acrylic paint and just adding a ton of water to kind of thin it out. I'm going to move my water over here so that way I'm not dripping everywhere. So I talk about it all the time, but I'm in Montana and we have had the goofiest weather the last probably not even 24 hours, like maybe the last 12 hours. So yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, today is April 18th, I think. And so we're well into April. Yesterday we had a high of 70, 71. And then yesterday evening it got super windy. And then I knew because I checked the weather app on my phone, I knew there was moisture or precipitation, I should say, around. Well, come to find out, I wake up this morning to freshly fallen snow on the ground. So welcome to Montana, where it snows even in April. So I'm kind of kidding, but I love where I live, so I'm not griping at all. But like I said, I think it's so funny that I'm a California girl. I grew up in the Central Valley just south of Sacramento. And, back in California, our family's still there and I still keep in touch with a lot of people, but they're in the 80s. And if I was still living in California, I would be painting, or not painting. I would be painting, but I would have be planting my garden. I probably would have already been starting to get some little baby potato, or I can't talk today. Baby tomatoes. I've never grown potatoes. And here this morning in Montana, I wake up to snow. So, needless to say, that's probably been my not hardest, but the timeline of when spring comes to visit, and stay around is definitely different than what I grew up with. So coming in here, and once again, since those lines are etched in the wood, you don't have to worry about losing that outline. And sometimes what I'll even do is I'll go back and I will go back with a Sharpie and kind of make those lines stand out a little bit more. I did that on my wood feather, which I don't have handy, but I have another project that I painted a few days ago that's the same style. It's the same wood where you can see the wood grain. And I painted it, and I wanted that real strong kind of quilt, kind of geometric look. So I went back over the lines at the very end and outlined them again because I really wanted that kind of real distinct, not dark, but bold outline. And so it's totally up to you. You can paint these in a variety of different ways, whatever kind of suits your home decor or your style. Um, I just think these are so, so fun. Put my paint on a little bit thick when I started on this left-hand mountain, so I'm just trying to use some water to dilute that paint and pick some up and move it over. These are so fun, and there's a great company that I work with, and they actually kind of, I don't want to say designed this for me, but they kind of did. I had the idea, and so I sent it over with a few kind of suggestions of how to design it, and then they tag teamed with me on making these. So I'm so, so excited to have this. You know, let's be adventurers. I'm always a big one. I love kind of being an adventurer at heart. See how I'm just picking that paint up? You don't have to do this, but I just want to show you, if you find that you put your paint on just a little too thick, you can lift it as long as it hasn't dried. So I'm just coming in here with a dry paper towel and lifting a little bit of that gray paint, just so you can still see that wood grain. Now, if you've ever painted a wall in your house, you know this to be true. You'll paint your colors, and then as they dry, they'll kind of morph a little bit. Or sometimes they'll lighten, sometimes they'll darken. If you've ever painted a wall in your house and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? That looks, pretty obnoxious, or it's not as, saturated or as bold as you like. And then you just wait a little bit, and as it dries, that color changes. Same thing will happen with this as well, not nearly as much, but as the wood is absorbing the paint, as it's drying, it'll be kind of splotchy. And so I always tell people, I'm like, there's no judgment until your painting is complete. So now I'm going to come in here with a little bit of a lighter gray. I'm just mixing in a little bit of white each layer, so that way there's a little variance in the different lines of these cool mountain ranges. Now, it's kind of fun because it kind of almost feels like a quilt, like it has that very geometric kind of boho feel. I like throwing out big fancy words like I'm cool and on trend. It's very boho trendy. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just see something, I'm like, oh, I love that. That's cool. I want to teach that. And so usually I'll like kind of put out feelers like, hey guys, what are you feeling on this? And I did, put a post probably about a month ago with this kind of style of art, and a lot of you guys gave me positive feedback on it. So like I said, I was working with my company, and this is what we came up with. I also have 2 more designs that I'm going to wait a little bit more into the summer, but it's the same kind of quilt wood cutout, but they're very Americana, very like 4th of July. So I want to just wait a little bit to share those with you. But once again, if this is something that you want to paint, if you are near me, if you're local, just hit me up and I can put an art kit together for you. If you are not local, which the majority of people that I talk to on here, you guys are either friends from California or people that have just kind of found me on Facebook or on YouTube. But let me know if this is something that you want to paint. And if you do, first off, don't pay full price. Make sure you text me, and I will send you a coupon code for 10% off. And you can use that for anything in my store on my website. But shipping is included. These little suckers can be easily shipped to the lower 48. I'm sure if you're in Alaska, Canada, well, Canada might be a little more expensive. I know I do have a couple people that follow me in Canada, but Alaska and Hawaii, just shipping might be a little bit extra. But if you love this and you have to have it, we will figure out a way to get it to you. But once again, these are so fun with these pre-etched lines and the 3D words. And I like them for a lot of reasons. One, because it gives it just that extra layer of dimension. It gives that little pop factor. But also, let's say you don't like the words. Don't put them on here. Like you're not going to get detention if you don't follow the rules 100%. Like, this is art and you can paint it however you like. So if you're not a big fan of the words, just don't add that part on there. All right. How does that look so far? I think that's coming along pretty cool. I have another kind of question, or, oh, I grabbed the wrong little cup of paint. Dang it. Let me grab some white paint real quick. I just use these little plastic cups and I squirt out a little bit of paint at a time so that way I'm not wasting paint. But sometimes I grab the wrong little tub because I have a couple that look similar. So this is what I was looking for. But anyways, so my kind of story or motivation or whatever you want to say, I've always been artistic. I was the kid that loved to, scribble on anything and everything. I forgot that little guy. I'll come back in and pee him. I have always been a person that loves to create, whether it's, just a little kid with crayons. When I was going to school, I was an art major. Like, I've always loved creating. I kind of joke that it's like part of my DNA. And because it's something that I love to do, of course, it's a passion I've always pursued. And I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I do. So of course I want to enhance my art skills. All that to say, I'm kind of rambling. I am curious, for those of you that, like, I always see somebody speaking French and I'm like, oh, I would love to learn French. What prevents me from learning is that I'm lazy and I know I won't sit down and I won't put the work into it. But I have a lot of people that go, man, I wish I could learn how to draw or paint. So if you are an aspiring artist, if you are somebody that, on your, to-do list, your bucket list is to learn how to either paint or draw, what is the motivation for that? Is it just because it looks like it's something fun to do? Like, that's kind of been one of my philosophical questions. So if you are an aspiring artist, what is the attraction or the reasoning that you think learning how to paint or draw would be fun? I have a couple things that I'm brainstorming. So I want to do a little market research. So if that is you, you can either post it in the comments, or if you're, I don't want to say, if you're shy, if you don't want to share with the whole group, just send me a private message or text me. You can even text me here because I do check these messages. I don't want you to think it goes to like some weird bot in the sky. Those messages do come to me. But if you are an aspiring artist, if you've always, like, ever since you were a kid or even just in adulthood have thought it would be fun to learn how to create stuff, what is that motivating factor for you? What about art looks fun and cool, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it? For me, like I said, truly for me, it has been a way for me to, honestly, art therapy has played a huge role in my life. There's some people that they just sing, like, a caged canary. Why does the canary sing? Or the caged bird. But like, for some people, it's just a part of who they are. Like, as much as I can't prevent having freckles and brown eyes, art is just part of who I am. And so I'm just curious, if you are an aspiring artist or somebody that always thinks like, oh, hey, I think it'd be so cool to learn how to draw or paint, what looks cool about it? Is it just a skill? Is it something that you feel compelled to do? Please share with me. A little glob of paint right there. All right. I can always remember, even being a little kid and hanging out with my grandparents, and they'd, I have an older sister, so usually if one kid went to the grandparents' house for the weekend, we both did. But, I remember going to Denny's or IHOP or, wherever my grandparents took me. I'm having a funky hair day, guys. Sorry if I'm fidgety. I should have worn one of my hats. We'll just call it like that. But I remember them taking us to, just a little diner. And the very first thing I would do if they weren't already on the table is I would ask the waitress, do you guys have any crayons? Because I've always loved to color and paint and draw and, do anything artistically I could. But that's just, like I said, who I am. I truly feel it's part of my DNA. And now that I get to have the coolest job ever and share my love of creating art with you guys. To me, that's one of the funnest things is when I, either if I paint with you in person or if you do one of my tutorials and then you send me pictures, like I'm always so, so proud of what you guys create. And I love to encourage it. I almost think I love encouraging painters almost more than I do creating art myself. And I should have been doing this with a smaller brush, but that's okay. But see how cool that looks with the kind of gradation of the light to dark. You don't have to do that. You could paint it all solid if you want to. I just think it looks really fun. So now I'm going to do, I kind of want this gray, this road right here to match the gray in the mountain. So I kind of have like a kind of a composition in my head of what I want this to look like. So I think I'm going to do this part of the ground like a grayish brown, more brown than anything. But I just think this is going to be so fun. So excited. I think I've said that about a half a dozen million times. So excited. Alrighty. Now when you're doing this, like I said, the wood is porous, and so it's going to absorb a little bit of that watered down paint. But the nice thing with those etched lines is that you will never lose where your lines are. I mean, if you came in here with like a 6-inch thick layer of paint, maybe you'd lose those lines. But for the most part, this is just like a big wood coloring book. Like you're just coming in and adding color between the lines. Like it's not too scary. Alrighty. Left little line straight. All right. And once again, I am just using kind of diluted acrylic paint. I'm just adding water because I want to see that wood grain through the paint. But you don't have to paint it that way. If you want it a little more saturated, if you want just like solid color instead of this like kind of thin, kind of almost like a glazed look. You could definitely use just regular paint and not thin it down a little bit. But like I said, that's the whole reason why I got this kind of wood is so that you could still see that wood grain through it. MDF is really, really durable. But like I said, it doesn't have this much character in it. And once again, if you've ever played with watercolor, this actually reminds me, if you do the diluted paint, it does remind me a lot of watercolor because when you put it on, it's going to look a little bit vibrant. And then as that moisture gets absorbed, in this case, it's being absorbed into the wood. But if you're doing watercolor, granted, it's the watercolor paper. Sometimes those colors aren't nearly as vibrant as they were when you first put them down, which can be two things. Like if you put it down and you go, whoa, that's pretty expressive or bold and obnoxious. You can let it absorb and dry and see if it mellows out. And if it mellows out too much, then you can always go back in and add a second layer. So like I said, I'm coming in here with brown, but I may decide in a little bit that I want to put a second layer on of kind of like a gray so it matches the mountains, but it still is like a brown or a tan gray, if that makes sense. Sometimes I say stuff and I'm like, I sound like a total nerd because what I'm saying isn't even real words. See how neat that is already? Yay! All right. I'm going to come in here. And like I said, I am just kind of always tweaking and playing. I'm going to come in here and lift a little bit of this extra paint. Just so that way if it's a little too dark, you can always lift it. And then if it's too light, you can always add an extra layer. Have fun. All right, now time for the road. I think I want to do you think I should do dark to light or light? I don't know. I did dark on the top. Maybe I'll start with pure black on the outer edges. Like I said, I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but not 100%. Sometimes if you overthink things, it never works out. I mean, I am definitely a prepared person. For most things, I over plan and over prepare and always bring extra, but also as a person that has dealt with anxiety in the past and panic attacks, I try not to overthink life in general. But when it comes to art, like sometimes a little bit of a plan is good, but I try not to plan out every detail because, as in life, things never really go according 100% to plan. So you got to have a little bit of flexibility built in. But also when it comes to creating, it gives me a little bit of time for kind of inspiration to take over. So like I said, I like to have those little spots to where I can go, I'm not sure what I'm going to do until I get there and then kind of see how I feel. Intuition is a big thing when it comes to art. I know a lot of people, especially when I do paint parties, they're like, I want my painting to look exactly like yours. And I want to be like, I guess they figured that that's, if they're a good artist, it'll look exactly like mine, which I mean, is fine. But even when I paint the same painting twice, it won't look exactly the same. There's that human element. And to me, that's what makes art beautiful. Like, poetry, it's that personal touch of the author. And for me, in art, it's that personal touch of the artist's hand. And even if you don't consider yourself an artist, if you make art, you're an artist. Like I'm a firm believer in that. And what is good art? That's speculative too, because there's things that I've created that I am like, that is hideous. I don't ever want somebody to see it. And then like maybe somebody will, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love it. Can I buy it? And I'm like, sure. And that's happened before. I'm like, why would you want to pay me money for this? This is ugly. But then I'm like, if you want to buy it, sure, it's available for purchase. But anyways, all that to say, like, don't, you can be a critical person as an artist, or just in general. I should, but give yourself grace. Give yourself space to know that your artwork is going to have things that happen that maybe aren't according to plan, but those can be your favorite little, it's kind of like a road trip. Like if you take a road trip and you get, steered off the main path, that's usually where the adventures start. And for me, truly with art, like that fun, like kind of, sometimes there are mistakes, but sometimes you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do there. I'm just going to put down some paint and see what happens. And then because it wasn't planned out, it's almost kind of like a little adventure, like a little surprise. And it's so fun. So I am rambling and not making much sense, but all that to say, I love when I'm creating something to have a little bit of a game plan, because I kind of want to know roughly what colors I want to use, or, I try and think about it a little bit, but at the same time, I try and leave space for, like I said, inspiration. I try and leave space for, my imagination to come up with ideas or inspiration from you guys. I'm laughing because I hear the sun came out. We had super crazy snow last night. Well, now the sun's come out, and so now I hear everything melting, and it sounds like I left the sprinklers on or something. I just hear this drip, 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 drip. So if you hear a drip in the background, it's because our April snow is finally deciding to melt. I'm going on and on about the snow, but in all honesty, it's so beautiful. I always understand, like, kind of if you grow up with something, it loses its I don't know, novelty. And never living in snow, where we lived close to snow. Snow was usually about a 2 or 2.5 hour drive away. But for me, like, I remember our first snowy, like when you wake up to a snowy morning, and like that first time, like that was so fun. And I just hope that novelty never wears off on me. I hope that I always wake up, and as long as I'm not having to shovel it or drive through it, I hope I always enjoy the snow because it is so pretty. It's like a whole different environment. I remember, I don't know. I know there's a term for it. So if you know it, post in the comments. I forget what the actual term is called, but it's like the silence of snow. Like, I don't know if it absorbs sound or like what causes it to be like so deafening silent. But it's true. Like if you go out like in the middle of the night or in the morning, or anytime during the day, I guess. And it snowed, like, as long as you're not like in town, because then you're gonna hear cars and horns and whatnot and people screaming. But like I think it's the acoustics of it. It just absorbs sound and it's like eerily quiet, but it's so, I don't know, so peaceful too. I like the snow, all that to say. I'm loving how this is looking. Okay, so now we're gonna add just a little bit more. Like I said, I'm just kind of doing a gradation. I want it to go from dark to light. I wonder if I should do this middle lane like yellow. That might be kind of cool. Lighten this up just a little bit. And like I said, I'm kind of playing back and forth with the paint and the water. So if you see me kind of dipping my brush and going back and forth, it's just because I want this paint to be a little bit see-through. I want to be able to see the wood grain through it, but I don't want it to be too see-through. So I may go back once this dries and add another layer of color. It's easier to, you know, darken a color than it is to try and lift or remove some of that. So, you know, paint's a little bit different. It's not like I just have an eraser, but I do have a couple of tricks. One of my tricks is actually a baby wipe. If your paint is still wet, you can usually use a baby wipe to kind of go back and wipe it up. And guess what? When I was setting up to do my live, I went to go grab my baby wipe container, and guess what? All out. So I have to use a crappy paper towel. Just kidding. But that actually, I actually learned that one from one of my friends that also teaches paint parties. She's like, "Yep, just baby wipe," and I'm like, "Where has that been my whole life?" Do you ever like find like a tip or a trick or a hack, and you're like, "Why did I not know that my entire life?" But yeah, baby wipes are amazing. It's actually kind of funny because I'll be at a paint party and someone's like, "Oh no, I messed up," and I'm like, "Step aside. I'm gonna show you one of my superpowers," and get out the baby wipe and wipe it up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh," because it literally will. It acts like a not an eraser because you're wiping it up, but it will actually lift whatever paint. So even if you have like a dot of black where it's, you know, supposed to be white, as long as your paint is still wet, a baby wipe will lift it up. So a baby wipe is definitely helpful. So I think I actually do want to do this middle yellow. Let me grab some yellow paint. You know, kind of like the center of the highway. So if you guys are just jumping on or you're catching the replay, shoot me a text at 406-283-4657. Evidently, I can't read my own writing. And if you text me, I will send you a coupon code that you can use to buy your very own 3D Let's Be Adventures wood cutout. And it will come with the, this is an 18 by 18, so this is pretty good size, or 18 by, let's see, I have a ruler right here. 18 by 12, oh, probably 13 and a half, maybe 13 or 14 by 18. And then it also has the snow, I'll show you here in just a second. It has those snow caps and then also the words. How does that look with the yellow? Does that look pretty cool? And remember, if you want your colors to be a little more solid or saturated, saturated is a fancy word, you can always just add another layer. I am diluting my paint just a little bit with water so it goes more on like a glaze or a wash than it does a thick coat of paint. But once again, whatever design, you know, style you like or whatever kind of speaks to you. No, I know that sounds silly, but paint this like the colors of whatever your house is, or how cute, I love it. All right, I'm going to set this aside and let it dry for a while. I'm actually going to probably go back and do another layer on some parts, but I'm going to go ahead while that is kind of set to the side and dries. I'm going to do my lettering and my snow caps. Now I'm going to do these in white. I may change my mind later and do the lettering a different color, just depending on how much it kind of pops against the background. But I definitely know I want my little snow-capped mountains to have this pretty white. So I'm just coming in here with a thin layer of white paint. And the other thing that's nice about this is because it's so smooth, the wood finish, you really only need about one layer of paint. Like I said, if you want real thick, kind of saturated color, you can definitely do two. But one coat actually gives you a lot of saturation, or big fancy word. So you can definitely, you don't need a ton of paint to do this. All right, there's another one. So do you guys have any adventures planned for the summer? I know we're kind of mid-April. Jeremy and I are planning a road trip this summer. We don't have all the details quite figured out, but we're definitely taking our dog. We're gonna take Jack on a little road trip. So I will definitely be sharing my adventurous shenanigans with you guys. But I love road trips. I love little day trips. And Montana is so full of so many little pockets to explore. We've lived here since 2007. And honestly, there are so many places that, people will be like, oh, blah, 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 waterfalls. And I'm like, where's that? Or they'll be like, oh, such and such hiking trail. And I'm like, draw me a map. There's so many fun places to explore that we haven't even explored or even heard about yet. You've seen some of my posts. I always laugh because when people are like, oh, your pictures are so beautiful. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like pictures don't do Montana justice. So if you've ever wanted to come visit, like I highly encourage, please come visit. It's honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. I haven't traveled extensively, but I've traveled my fair share. And Montana, hands down, in my opinion, I don't want to get any hate text or messages, but in my opinion, Montana is one of the most beautiful places anywhere. If you like big sky, big trees, mountain ranges, big rivers, big lakes, it is beautiful. But all that to say, my little adventure heart is happy because I could live here 100 years and probably never run out of places to explore and go have adventures. So there's our little snow cat mountains. Usually I'd have a baby wipe that I can wipe my hands on. So like I said, I'm going to do the wording white. I may change my mind later because depending on how these look on the background, I may do black letters down the road. So another thing that's fun about being an artist is you can change your mind. I think that's a female thing. I'll say, I don't know until I know, and then when I know, I'll know for sure. But like I said, sometimes it's okay to paint something and go, I'm not totally loving that, and then paint it something else. So like I said, I'm going to do these in white. White is probably the easiest color to cover. So like I said, if I wanted to do these something else, it's very easy to paint over white. But am I doing these right things? I'm like painting right here. At the end of the day, if I paint these and I'm not loving them, I can paint them a different color. All right, almost done. But I have been so excited. Like I said, I have that beautiful, beautiful feather. And I painted mine almost like a rainbow. I'm going to do another one. That one's sold. So I think I might do another one. But I love, like, here in Montana, there's a large Native American history and culture and kind of community. And I love just the bright colors, the beadwork. Like, if you see, somebody in traditional Native American dress, like, especially like celebration, like it's just bright and colorful and beautiful and a celebration visually. And so I was kind of thinking when I did the feather, I'm like, I want to do bright colors. And so I did the rainbow and it turned out so nice. And then I did the background in copper. And so when the sun hits it, man, that thing was shimmery. But I think I might want to I love blues and teals and aquas. So I think I might do another one like in kind of that color palette. Not like mermaid colors, but I do love, like I said, aquas and teals and turquoises. Turquoises. That's not a real word. Oh my gosh, you guys. Turquoises. Sis. Oh man. Sometimes I even crack myself up. All right. So once again, coming in here, thin layer of white. I may change my mind and do it another color later, but I just thought it'd be really cute because it would match the snow-capped mountains. But because my background isn't very dark, because I'm doing kind of that stained kind of light faded kind of look, the white lettering may not stand out, may not pop. So I reserve the right to change my mind later if I want to do something different. But once again, make sure that you send me a text, and anytime I have cool offers or cool deals or, you know, just doing some fun shenanigans, I'm going to be starting to do more with text messages. So I want to make sure that you don't miss out on all of those shenanigans. All right, last little part of this word. Actually, I'll show you before I put this all together. I want to show you guys what actually inspired this. Let's see if I can do this without knocking everything over, which I'm great at doing. So this was one that I did a long time ago. And if you look, it says, "Oh, darling, let's be adventurers." And then this is actually a little clothespin. Oh, I think I glued it, but so you can actually like put different pictures in there. So that's me and Jeremy when we got married. Aren't we cute? I'm still as hairy. He's more hairy. 2008, you guys. Do I look different? Do I look different? But anyway, so this is just a clothespin that I literally just hot glued to this canvas, but I did the background to kind of look like a little wood plank. But "Oh, darling, let's be adventurers." And so I've had this for even before we moved to Montana. And I've always loved that. So when I was thinking about doing this style of wood cutout, I thought it'd be so fun to do the "Let's be adventurers." Let me see if I can do this without making a big mess. Move this to the side a little bit. I think I need a bigger workspace. I have my little desk, but it gets so cramped sometimes. Yeah, the little snow-capped mountains. Oh my gosh, isn't that adorable, you guys? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see what it looks like with the white words, white wording. Oh, you know what? I think I might actually like that. I like to price myself. I actually like that. Oh, this is cute, you guys. Isn't it fun when things turn out better than you anticipated? Ah! Okay. Let's be adventurers. Oh, how stinking cute is that? Okay. So I might... sorry, guys. I think I had too much coffee this morning. I'll switch to decaf next time I do a live. I love this. I might even add some white cloud. I like the white. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to let this dry because this is still real wet. Real ooey gooey is what I say, but that's not a real art term. So I'm going to let this dry for a little bit. And then, like I said, I might put an extra coat of white on the lettering, but I like the white. What do you guys think? Does that kind of have enough kind of contrast? Fancy art word. Contrast, saturation. I'm going to move this. So I have my goofy little ring light. I want to move this so you guys can really see how great that looks. Oh, it kind of helps. So cute. Okay, I'm going to jump off here, let this dry for about another 20 minutes, and then I'll add some more to it, and then I will show you guys the final version. But once again, these are so fun to do, so easy to do. You honestly, even just leaving this plain wood or just staining it with an actual wood stain, I think would be so pretty. But yay. So if you want one of these, like I said, I do have it listed in my store already. I'm going to go back and add some of the finished pictures. But if you want to order one of these, text me at 406-283-4657. Just say want the coupon code or whatever. And I will send you a coupon code, and that is good for anything in my not Facebook store, website store, including this beautiful, beautiful wood project. And if you are local, I will drop it off. If you are not local, I will drop it in the mail and send it directly to you. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Like I said, oh, hey, Tanisha, how are you, my friend? Hey, Squishy. So Jeremy and I and the dog are planning a road trip this summer, and we might be headed your direction. So do you want to plan a little meetup? Let me know. So once again, gonna jump off here. Hope you guys have a great Monday. I know, can you put those two words together? Great Monday. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.